Well, it's been a while, hasn't it? Welcome to the Legends podcast in the really torn apart room right now. Looks like a closet at the moment, especially with this ultra wide webcam look. Um, New bookshelf over here. We're moving stuff around right now. That's primarily what I've been doing lately when I haven't been going to school, but the semester ended. I think I did pretty well for the semester. Um, yeah, got really chaotic. I couldn't really release anything. I filmed a few things. I continuously read, but I haven't been releasing anything on here lately. But that's gonna change. But we're doing a bit of a reset with the Legends podcast and kind of with everything Stupid Chainsaw related going forward. And I know this is a really unconventional time to stream, but it's the only time I have available because this evening some things came up, so I couldn't stream. So here we are. This is what we're going to be doing. Um, we'll start with the Legends podcast and we'll move through actually all the podcasts on the Stupid Chainsaw Productions channel, as well as a little bit of paper movies, but paper movies isn't always my call on things, just my end of paper movies. So we'll start with Star Wars Legends here. Star Wars Legends, although has is my most successful podcast, it's gotten kind of an infamous reputation in the last 2 years of being quote unquote toxic. And I really analyzed this because this is a comment that I was kind of feeling. We get a lot of really negative comments on the Legends podcast because the Legends podcast is anti the Disney canon and the Disney stuff. And over the years, with all of the horrible choices that Kathleen Kennedy and the rest of Lucasfilm have made, it's gotten more and more negative. Because let's be honest, for us Legends fans, it's incredibly frustrating to see what the new administration of Lucasfilm has done. And all of the embarrassing political garbage, all of just the general garbage, the fact that a certain someone that we make fun of all the time on this podcast named Dave Filoni has so much control over things, and yet he releases worse and worse garbage. Isn't that funny how that works? But from here on forward, we aren't going to talk about Dave Filoni anymore. We're not going to talk about Disney, quite frankly, anymore. I don't want to talk about it because they want you to talk about it, because if they're not going to release good stuff, then they're going to release bad stuff and start shit with everyone when it's bad. Not going to play that game with them anymore. No. Basically, I'm only ever going to talk about Disney Star Wars when they release Legends content. So right now that has to do with the Marvel omnibuses, which we did get the Empire Volume 2 omnibus. Thank you, Marvel. I'm glad you got off your fucking ass and did that. It's about time. And we're gonna get some more from them. And we're starting to get unabridged audiobooks again on Audible. That's great. That's great. Gonna get Outbound Flight and Survivor's Quest come out next week, I think, which is super exciting. I'm gonna try to pick those up immediately. We're also going to get a couple more in January. I can't remember which ones they were. Um, I do know that the Commando books aren't getting them just yet, but give it time, people. Despite how I feel about Karen Travis's Republic Commando books, they're very popular. It would make them a lot of money, and it would be a very bad choice, which I think they were Del Rey and Penguin Random House Audio really realized they dropped the ball on that one, getting rid of the audiobooks. Um, Granted, Not all of them were great, but pretty much most of the ones they released for the Essential Legends collection were good. The only one I say wasn't great is Darth Maul Shadowhunter. I'm not a huge fan of. It's just the performance of the guy who voices Maul in TCW. He makes some very questionable choices with how he narrates. And he's a talented voice actor, don't get me wrong. But I don't know what the direction was on that. If he made those decisions, if the director of it made the decisions to have him just do 1,000 different voices when doing the main narrative rather than his own voice, which he has a nice speaking voice. I don't know what that was about, but it is whatever. And a lot of people love it, so I'm not gonna really shit on it. It just wasn't my thing. I found it a bit distracting. Anyway, going forward, I kind of want to put this sort of memo forward with more positive content on my end. We're going to be end of December going into next year. We're really going to pump out a bunch of content on things that I really like that I've wanted to review for a long time. Starting with Star Wars Clone Wars Adventures, which for those of you who don't know, are the spin-off digest comics for Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. I've already filmed half of them so far. It went for 10 volumes. I've got the first 5 filmed. They're just waiting to be edited. We're also going to be tackling Jedi Apprentice, which I just finished book 16 of that. So we're almost done with Jedi Apprentice. Reason I took a break from Jedi Apprentice was I think I burned you all out. Real quickly, we do have someone watching. Small Time says hello, Small Time. Anyway, Jedi Apprentice, yeah, it's a lot. I get it. It's a great series. But I get why y'all weren't watching them, because that was the only type of Star Wars review was on a YA series that's pretty hard to get. I get not wanting to watch that. So I'm going to be intermixing that with, Clone Wars Adventures will pump out the first 5 of those. Are going to come out like immediately, as well as the Indiana Jones Adventures, which is a pseudo series that's in the same style as Clone Wars Adventures, digest size comics. We're going to actually start with that. That's the first thing coming out. I'm going to have one of those come out this weekend. There's only 2 of those, and then we'll jump into Clone Wars comics. But we're also going to come back to Aliens, specifically classic Aliens. I'm talking the original Mark Vierman comics. I'm going to go through those omnibuses as well as the Predator omnibuses, because Predator Omnibus Volume 2 is coming out, which pretty much completes the collection of all the Predator comics with the exception of Archie versus Predator. Well, any of the weird tie-in comics where it was cross-platform with like DC, like Batman versus Predator, Batman versus Alien. They did some with Superman. They're mostly terrible, people. Those aren't collected. You're not even going to get Archie versus Predator. You're not going to get either of those because I think they made 2 of them. I've not read those. You're not getting those in these omnibuses. The real downside with both these Aliens and Predator omnibuses, we're not getting Fire and Stone or Life and Death. These were big events near the end of Dark Horse owning the rights to Aliens and Predator, because they also own the rights to Prometheus and AVP. So we had these big crossovers. For those of you who have been longtime fans of the channel, I covered all of Fire and Stone. I don't know if I covered Life and Death so much. I think I've reviewed some of it in Comic Book Throwdown. Was a big fan of those series. Really liked them. They're very hard to get now. And I wish that they would just Marvel would re-release them in omnibus form. I don't know if they have an issue with the Prometheus label. They can't with Alien versus Predator because they own the two. That'd be weird if they didn't own AVP as a property, but they owned Aliens and Predator. That'd be really bizarre. Because we haven't gotten an AVP omnibus through Marvel yet. I'm not sure. It might have to do with the AVP movies bombed so badly that they just don't want to touch that. I get it on a money standpoint, but it's been so long since those comics have been re-released, and they released the novels. The AVP Del Rey novels got re-released in a Titan Books little paperback omnibus. And they have released Aliens versus Predator. I think it was Rift War. I covered it on the channel 2 years ago. No, it was last year. It came out, I think, either end of 2022 or early 2023. It was good. Got a lot of views, so there are people who care about the AVP label, but they haven't released anything with that. I don't know. I get not releasing Fire and Stone and Life and Death because they're just tie-in. They're like huge events that are over 4 different storylines, but like just do their own omnibuses. I think based on how the big hardcover library editions through Dark Horse that are way out of print go for online. Yeah, you have a market for it. You could re publish them. I don't know what words are today. Sorry. So we're gonna pivot here because we're gonna talk. As I was saying, we're gonna do Aliens. Gonna do some Predator stuff with the comics and the early novels. I'm also planning a little later on in 2024 getting back into the Titan Books stuff, starting with Aliens Phalanx and moving forward that way. Getting that stuff taken care of. Might even retry to read Alien Echo, the only YA Alien book. We'll see. That thing was horrific. That was a horrific read. I got 2 chapters in and I returned the audiobook. That's how bad it was. And I don't return audiobooks often. I still have all of Chuck Wendig's Star Wars books in audio. So like that should say something. I have a lot of terrible audiobooks on Audible that I will never listen to again, but I didn't feel nearly as robbed as I did for Alien Echo. So I don't know. It was terrible. It was not for me. And I don't think it was for most Alien fans because no one talks about Echo. Whereas, like, if I talk badly on like Sea of Sorrow or Out of the Shadows, people defend those. They do have a fan base. Oh, we got Noah showing up, Quality Autism. I'm glad you're here because we're talking about I'm about to pivot to stuff with us. So we'll start with Live and Let's Discuss. Live and Let's Discuss has 2 episodes that have not been released yet, but they have been recorded. And hopefully at the end of this year, early next year, Noah and I will get through Die Another Day up through there, where we just finished. We recorded Goldeneye last, although we both read Tomorrow Never Dies. Noah's read all of the Raymond Benson novelizations. I have not read World Is Not Enough or Die Another Day. Do plan to, if not at the end of this year, early next year. Because I'm kind of on a kick with listening to fan audiobooks of Alien and Predator books. You can find them throughout YouTube. I'm so glad that there's a fan community that just makes these because it's needed. It's needed, and a lot of these books are really hard to get now. So we're gonna talk about these sort of things. But like, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I slept like 2 hours last night, so please give me a break. With Live and Let's Discuss, Season 3, Noah and I have talked about this. I'll leak it here a little bit. Season 3 will be the Daniel Craig era. We'll record one episode for everything called Casino Royale. So the novel, the 50s made for TV movie, the 70s parody film, and then the Daniel Craig film. Then we'll go through the rest of the Craig era, but that's only 5 episodes. So we're going to tackle Young Bond, the YA books that came out in the mid 2000s, went into the 2010s. We're going to actually record those because I just actually listened to Silverfin, the first book. It was a lot better than it should have been, and I want to talk about it. So we're gonna discuss those. Then that will end season 3. Season 4, my plan is to go through all of the Bond stuff in chronological order. At least the novels, maybe some of the comics. I don't know. So season 4 potentially would start with either the James Bond origin comics or the Anthony Howowitz movie novel Forever and a Day. Then we would jump into Casino Royale, re-review that novel, and we would review all the novels. Because I feel like in most of the time we focus on the film because that's what people know more is the film when we do our analysis and reviews. So we'll give the novels an analysis. And I think we'd go up to For Your Eyes Only. That's season 4. Then season 5 would be starting with Thunderball, and we'd go into early Gardner stuff, and then rest of Gardner's that sort of thing, until we get to On His Majesty's Secret Service, which is kind of now an infamous woke book. So we'll see how that goes. But we got years before that happens, before I have to sit through that. It'll probably be a collector's item by the time we have to get that. Then pivoting to King of Our Nightmares. King of Our Nightmares is going to be put under what I call the Stupid Chainsaw Red Label. And what Red Label is, when I reviewed for Encyclopocalypse, we would have these books that I think were good, but they weren't for children. And Red Label sort of takes care of that because there's a lot of things I want to review, but not all of my audience is going to want to hear that because of the content in them. They're too violent, they're too graphic. So King of Our Nightmares going forward is going to be considered Stupid Chainsaw Red Label, as will all Aliens, Predator, AVP. I want to get into some Punisher comics going into 2024. That stuff's all going to be Red Label. So that means that we'll be swearing. We'll be swearing throughout those. They're going to be explicit tag for sure streams and videos potentially. I don't know. I don't always cuss in my reviews. But we all know that Noah can't help but swear. And he has a little thing to add back to the Tomorrow Never Dies review. We may be throwing in Forever and a Death by Donald Westlake. Yes. I don't know if I'll read it necessarily, but Noah will probably cover it. I don't know if I have time necessarily. I got a lot of reviews to do. Going forward as well, King of Our Nightmares, we did a live stream back in October with where we talked about Firestarter and Roadwork. I am currently working on getting through Dance Macabre. It might be one of the worst things I've ever read. It is a drunk rambling. I don't know if I'll finish it. I kind of hate it. I kind of really, really hate it. Yeah, it's bad. So we'll see. We'll see how far I get with that. Plans for season 2 is to get through at least half of the 80s. I don't know if we'll get through all the 80s. There's a lot of books. If we get to it, I will say we've accomplished something. With that being said, I don't think I'll reread The Talisman because I read it fairly recently, but Noah probably will. It's a solid book, don't get me wrong, but it's really long. And I don't know if I have time for that. Then we pivot to Walking Without Rhythm, which we're almost done with season 1. I know it's taken forever. We do have Heretics of Dune. I don't know if that's come out yet, but it's up to come out. And then I'm in the middle of Chapter House Dune right now. I actually took a break from it because with the Dune stuff, you gotta be in the mood for reading some Dune, in my opinion. And I was not in the mood to read Chapter House Dune after we finished Heretics. So I've only gotten like an eighth of the way through the book. I don't know. I have other things that I'm working on right now. So, yes, we will get through Chapter House Dune, and then potentially Noah will be leaving not paper movies, Walking Without Rhythm, or at least taking a break for a while. And I am in talks with potentially a new co-host for season 2, because season 2 will be the Kevin J. Anderson prequels, the House trilogy, and the Jihad trilogy, like the early stuff, like the Balerian Jihad and all that stuff. So Noah said he wanted to come back for the Kevin J. Anderson Dune sequels to Chapter House, which would be Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune. So he would come back for that. Um, but yeah, and Noah's already said that he has reread Talisman. I kind of remembered that after I said that. And yeah, it's a solid book. I really liked it, but it's like a 26-hour audiobook to listen to, and I just don't have time for that right now. Yeah. So that's all the podcasts. We've gone through Stupid Chainsaw Red Label. We've gone through pretty much most of what I want to talk about. I do plan to potentially get some Dragonlance out. I was going to re-review the Chronicles books. Watching the reviews I did, they're fine enough. I'm not going to re-record those. I'm partly through 20 books right now. All right. Give me a break. So December is going to actually be whittling down my Goodreads list. I do plan to actually link my Goodreads account so you can follow along with what I'm reading. Granted, when it comes to certain things with Goodreads, I have to guesstimate how I log them. For instance, I've read 84 books according to Goodreads this year. One glitched out, so it said that I read one of the Paper Movies books twice, which I did not. I think it was Last Crusade. It says I read it twice. I did not read it twice. Why would I read it twice? It's a good book, don't get me wrong, but why would I read it twice in the month of like March? That's weird. Also, the other thing, when it comes to specifically like Indiana Jones Dark Horse stuff, a lot of it never got collected in trades. It either got collected in single issues or it ended up in those Dark Horse omnibuses that are really hard to find. So when logging it, sometimes I have to put the single issues down. So that messes with my score stuff. That's why, like, I had a goal of reading 70 books this year. I've well surpassed it. Part of that has to do with uh, that sort of having to log single issues in, so I can accurately follow what I've read and what I've reviewed. I kind of use Goodreads as a log of things that I review, and some things I don't review, like the nonfiction stuff I do tend to read, like Wise Guy, or I Heard You Paint Houses, because I like reading mafia nonfiction stuff, like crime stuff. I have a love for that, but I don't review that on the channel. That I have no desire to do that. I've reviewed one nonfiction book ever, and that was a request from a publisher. And after doing that, I never wanted to review a nonfiction book again. I just don't. It's not my thing. I don't like making the reviews. I think they're horribly boring, and I'm not personally. I will not watch a review on a nonfiction book. I just won't. It's not my thing. If I want to read a nonfiction book, I'm not going to watch a review on it. I'll just experience it myself, or I'll read reviews. I don't know. There's not a lot you can add to a nonfiction book review, in my opinion. Whereas fiction stuff, it's more entertaining to watch. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I got through this really quick. I was expecting this to take an hour, and it's only taken 25 minutes. So cool, and I'm actually glad people showed up. Well, yeah, we will do that for King of Our Nightmares. I'm not looking forward to any of those, especially Dance Macabre. On writing, it's the only Stephen King book Matt Wilkins has read, and he liked it. Also, Secret Window. I think that's a nonfiction one King wrote. His Guns essay. I was actually talking to someone about that and how not looking forward I am to reading blatant Stephen King's terrible political opinions, you know. He's just such a weird radical, especially now. The older he gets, the more radical he gets and more embarrassing he gets. Just says kooky, weird shit, which I'm not a fan of. Needless to say, there's a reason I don't follow Stephen King on Twitter anymore. It's kind of embarrassing. Yeah. Or read Owen King stuff, his political son. Joe Hill stuff, read that. Don't read Owen King stuff. It's not worth your time. Also, don't read Tabitha King stuff. Also not worth your time. Oh, yes, you are going to read Faithful. Faithful is Stephen King's nonfiction book about the Red Sox. I think it's the Red Sox that he's a huge fan of. Yes, we're reading Faithful. You're going to read it. You're going to read it, Noah. You're going to like it. We'll get Matt Wilkins to read that one. That'll be the day. We get Matt Wilkins on King of Our Nightmares so he can read a book about the Red Sox because he's a baseball fan. Noah and I are not baseball fans, but if I'm going to read Faithful, Noah's going to read Faithful. My goodness. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for this. What am I currently reading? I've just finished, like I said, I just finished Jedi Apprentice book 16, The Call to Vengeance, which I thought was pretty damn good. Not reading anything else Star Wars right now. I'm about to start Indiana Jones in the Interior World because the YJK audiobook just dropped and I want to check that out. And they dropped the first part of it. They break those books into 8 parts, and the first one dropped, which is probably like a couple chapters of the book. They're usually about an hour-long videos. I put them on while at work and listen to them. Currently, I'm about a third of the way through Predator Concrete Jungle, the novel. I read Concrete Jungle, the comic, a little while ago. Such a weird story because Predator 2 rips so much off of Concrete Jungle. Like, I think they wanted to actually adapt Concrete Jungle and they didn't have the money for it. Because Concrete Jungle gets wacky at the end. I don't know. It was. I don't know which one's better. You'll get my opinion later when I jump into the Predator Omnibus because they actually have collected the Predator 2 comic. Yeah, they made a movie comic adaptation of Predator 2. They didn't for Predator. I did check out the novel. I finished the novel earlier this week. I checked out the novelization for Predator. What a weird fucking book. We're going to be talking about it on Paper Movies, which, okay, we can talk about Paper Movies. I will be making some appearances on Paper Movies next season. I won't be fully on there, but yes, I'm still a host of Paper Movies. I just don't have time to deal with that. So we're gonna probably do a Predator review. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about that, because we haven't set that stuff in stone. But I will be reviewing Predator, whether it's with the guys or a single cut. I will be reviewing it. I'm hoping it's with the guys because there's a lot to talk about with the Predator novelization, not the Predator novelization, which we did have Noah on for that. But Predator, that's a weird novelization. It's amazing how much of that movie was rewritten while in production. I mean, Poncho's called Ramirez for most of the novelization. He's only called Poncho twice. So, yeah. And there's so much anti-Reagan dialogue that I could almost guarantee Schwarzenegger said no to, because he's known for being a big Ronald Reagan fan, especially in the 80s. So, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Predator, what a weird novelization. Might check out Predator 2 next year, not sure, at least novelization wise. I'll definitely check out the comic. I really want to get into these old Dark Horse comics. The Indiana Jones stuff, although a good chunk of it was kind of mediocre, it got me craving 90s Dark Horse stuff. Man, and I do have a few things in the bag. As you all know, I put a poll up for what you wanted me to review first, which pretty much, if you haven't voted in that already, go vote. It's between Indiana Jones the Unicorn's Legacy and Aliens Nightmare Asylum, the novel, because I will actually be reviewing the comic this month. That's one of the early reviews coming out. I think I'll be releasing it next week, actually. That's a solid one to talk about. If not Nightmare Asylum, the comic, I'm going to be talking about an Aliens comic from the 90s. There's a one shot I think I want to talk about first. And I also want to talk about the new version of Outbreak, the comic, the first Mark Veerman comic that Steve Perry adapted into Earth Hive, because there's differences with that compared to any of the other releases I've ever seen of it. And we'll discuss that. I don't know if it'll get its own video. It might be intermixed with this this one-shot review, just so we can have a little longer runtime. So, yeah. Anyway, yes, Noah, it is the weaponized autism Predator story, is the Predator. It's a shame that Prey got a movie. The movie got released straight to Hulu, because that was a solid movie. I had issues with it, but it was so much better than anything both Predator and Alien, quite frankly, that's come out in, like, the last decade. Small Time says Field of Dreams is Shoeless Joe, the book Field of Dreams is based on, is pretty good. I've never seen Field of Dreams because I'm not a big baseball fan really anymore. I was for a very short period of time, but now I don't care. And Small Time also says, I just finished watching The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones. Some great episodes, but real stinkers. Yep. Oh, yeah, that can be a really terrible show to watch. It's kind of depressing. It had so much more potential. And then the episodes are re-edited now. And it sucks. It fucking blows. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have for today. I'll see you all later. Have a good one. And as always, stay Gucci.